I'm Adeline and welcome back to another episode of my channel, Adeline Shares. So in this episode today, I'll be sharing about a few differences between a new launch executive condominium versus a new launch private condominium. However, do know that whatever I'm sharing today are just general differences between the two, and I will not be going too in-depth into it as I do not want to confuse or even bore a lot of you guys out with too much information. But of course, at the end of the video, if you are seriously considering which is a better option for you, or maybe if there are questions in which you'd like to clarify with me, don't be afraid to reach out. So without much further ado, let's get started. So first of all, what is an executive condominium? An EC is known as a sandwich flat, otherwise known as a public-private housing hybrid, mainly catered for middle-income Singaporeans who can't qualify to apply for HDB flat due to the income ceiling cap, but still consider private condominiums to be too expensive. So why are ECs considered to be hybrid? The reason is because while they are being developed and sold by private developers, at the same time they are also being subsidized by the government. So this is the reason why while they have condo-like attributes such as swimming pools, gyms or even clubhouse, they are generally 20 to 30% cheaper than private condominiums. Furthermore, there are also grants available if you go for an executive condominium. So two different housing grants that you can apply for are the family grant as well as the half housing grant, and they are up to 30,000 and 15,000 respectively. However, if your spouse is a Singapore PR, your grant will be 10k lesser than the normal family grant. However, you'll be eligible to apply for the 10k citizen top-up grant once your spouse obtains Singapore citizenship. Also, one thing for you to take note is that you are only eligible for the family grant if you are a first-timer applicant. You will be considered to be a second-timer applicant if you have owned or sold a HDB flat bought directly from HDB, a resale flat bought using a CPF housing grant, or you have bought a EC or DBSS flat from the developer itself. As for the half housing grant, you will be eligible for it if you or your spouse is a first and second timer respectively. And also one very important thing to take note is that if you are going for EC, your combined household income cannot be more than $16,000. But of course, if you are going for a private condominium, there is no income restriction. Okay, so moving on, since EC is considered to be a hybrid, it will definitely fall under some of the HDB ruling. So in order for you to apply for an EC, you have to qualify under the following eligibility schemes: the public scheme, fiancé-fiancée, orphans, as well as joint single scheme. Whereas for a private condominium, there are no eligibility criteria. So as long as you're above the age of 21 and you can afford it, you can purchase one for yourself. And like I mentioned earlier, since EC is a hybrid, you'll be bounded under the HDB ruling for the first 10 years, in which the 5 years MOP still applies. And this means that for the first 5 years, you are not allowed to rent out your entire unit or even sell the EC. On the other hand, for a private condominium, there is no minimum occupation period. However, there will be a tax that's being imposed on you if you sell your condo within the first 3 years, and this is known as the seller's stamp duty. You can refer to the table over here for the respective rates. However, the good news is that you can start renting out the entire unit and collecting rent right after TOP. Since EC is considered a hybrid, it will only be fully privatized from the 11th year onwards. It means to say that for the first 5 years, it is only semi-privatized, and you can only sell your EC in the open market to Singaporeans and Singapore PR, and you can only start selling to foreigners after it fully privatized from the 11th year onwards. On the other hand, a private condo is already fully privatized, and hence there is no restrictions on who it can be sold to. Okay, so moving on to the second last point, aside from the usual progressive payment scheme, you can also opt for a deferred payment scheme for an executive condominium. So what exactly is this deferred payment scheme about? This deferred payment scheme allows EC home buyers to first put down a 20% down payment, and the remaining 65% is deferred all the way until it obtains TOP, and in other words, when the EC is ready to move into. And usually, this is actually a plus point for many EC buyers because they do not have to handle 2 mortgage loans at the same time if they have not sold their existing flat, and furthermore, there are no loan repayments during this construction period. And this is a very good thing for many EC buyers because you can actually take the time to save during the 3 to 4 years while it is being built. However, the catch is that if you are going for the deferred payment scheme, the expected purchase price for the unit is going to be 2 to 3% higher as compared to you opting for the normal progressive payment scheme. So for example, if the unit that you are going for costs 1 million, you're expected to be paying additional 20 to 30,000 more for the unit itself. Alright, so coming to the very last point, for EC buyers who currently owns a HDB flat, the good news is that you do not have to pay ABSD all the way until it reaches TOP, but you have to ensure that you get your unit sold within 6 months of key collection. However, if you currently own a HDB flat and you wish to upgrade to a private condominium, you will have to come up with an upfront 12% additional buyer's stamp duty payable in cash or CPF, and this has to be paid within 14 days of you signing the sales and purchase agreement. However, the good thing is that you are able to apply for ABSD remission if you are able to get your unit sold within 6 months of TOP. Alright, so we have now come to the end of today's episode on the differences between a new launch executive condominium versus a new launch private condominium. And by now, you will have realized that there are slightly more restrictions in you getting an executive condominium as compared to you getting a private condominium. So at the end of the day, it really depends on your plans and preference as well as the situation that you are in order to decide which is ultimately a better option for you. Okay, so I hope that today's episode has been helpful to you guys, and in the next episode, I'll be sharing on the cost involved in purchasing a HDB resale flat. So see you guys!